Yeah, golly, I mean, I could spend hours telling you about moments that haunt me. I mean, in all my trips, I've been out there since October the 7th. They've all been full of terrible injuries. The first few trips, mainly explosive injuries from aerial bombardment or from artillery shells or from tank shells, but mainly explosive injuries with some gunshot wounds from the quadcopter drones. But my last trip, and I just returned a few weeks ago, my last trip, we saw a huge increase in gunshot wounds. And they were predominantly in young teenage males, 11, 12, 13, 14-year olds who were being shot at the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation food distribution points. I saw these gunshot wounds almost daily, and the narrative we were getting from the victims, from their families, and indeed from Gazan healthcare colleagues of mine who used to go to these food sites to get food for their own starving families. The narrative was identical, that these young teenage boys who were getting food for their starving families were being shot by Israeli soldiers. And these were terrible gunshot wounds. On my second or third day in Nasser, I had a 12-year-old on the operating table who died under our hands. We couldn't save his life because of the severity of his injuries for having been shot by an Israeli soldier. And we saw multiple gunshot wounds throughout my stay there. And what made it even worse was the clustering, the pattern of injuries we saw, that to the extent that we saw sometimes on some days only gunshot wounds to the head and neck, on some days only gunshot wounds to the chest or the abdomen the next day, or the next day the legs or the arms. And on one day we saw 4 young boys who all came in with gunshot wounds to the testicles. And the clustering of these injuries, the pattern of the gunshot wounds was so striking that it was beyond coincidence in our view. And this pattern we all recognized, all the surgeons, all the emergency doctors, seemed to us as if the Israeli soldiers were playing target practice. We're going to go for the head and neck today, we'll go for the chest tomorrow, and we'll go for the testicles on Saturday. That was how stark the pattern of strikes were.